Ron pitched, and Lewis played the other 8 positions. 20 minutes later, they finally got 3 outs. The score was 21-0. Ron was first. Okay, it's Ron's turn to kick. We know he has his little feet. What do we think is going to happen?
We're going to kick it really far.
We're going to kick it really far.
We're going to go to the moon.
To the moon. Make sure you mask up if you're talking. Mason?
The first few trying, he's not going to make it good. At the last one, he's going to make it good.
So he's going to get more than 1 try, and it's going to get better with each try.
Don't they already have 3 times?
They do. They have 3 times. So that's a good question. Mason just said, don't they already have more than 1 attempt? Yes, they do. So let's see how Ron does with his little feet and kickball. Infield in, shouted Damien. Everybody stood within 10 feet of home plate. All right, Ron, Lewis shouted, kick it over their heads. Ron kicked the ball only 3.5 feet. 3.5 feet. Todd picked it up and threw him out. Lewis was up. Everyone ran back to the edge of the outfield. Still, Lewis kicked the ball over their heads for a home run. Everybody ran all the way back in again for Ron's up. He kicked the ball only 2 feet. Dee tagged him. So we've got 2 tries, and he's not done very well so far. What do we think is going to happen next? We know that it's going to be Luis's turn, right? I think Luis is going to keep performing how he's been doing. Luis kicked another home run. Ron then kicked the ball a foot and tripped over it with his on his way to first base. 3 outs. Ron and Luis held the other team to only 5 runs the next inning. That was because the bell rang. Lunch was finally over. Lewis and Ron lost 26-2. Ron had a wonderful time. Did it matter to Ron that he didn't kick a home run?
He didn't do it.
Did it matter to him?
No.
No.
He just wanted to play.
He just wanted to play. He wanted to be included. Have you guys ever felt like that before?
Yeah.
Did it matter if you were good at the game? You just wanted to be included?
All the time.
Yeah? I hear a little bit of a mixed reaction from our crowd. Nice. So, the next day, Ron said, I want to play kickball. You can't play, said Terrence. Get out of here, said Jason. Scram, said Dee Dee. So back to how it was at first. I want to play kickball, Ron told Luis. Luis walked him to the kickball field. Ron and I will stand all of you. Everybody liked the teams. Ron pitched while Lewis played the other 8 positions. They lost 75-2. After the game, Lewis took Ron aside. Listen, Ron, he said, why do you always want to play kickball? You can't kick, you can't field, you can't even run to first base. You just get smashed every game. Hey now, wait a second, said Ron. Don't go blaming it all on me. You're half the team too, you know. And with that, he punched Lewis in the stomach. And he punched a heck of a lot harder than he kicked. Right. So in the end, Ron couldn't play kickball with his small feet, but it didn't matter. So that is chapter 21. After we read 22, you will have the opportunity to write a summary on that. Or you can choose our 22, which is called The 3 Erics. We haven't heard much about the 3 Erics yet, have we?
There's 2 fat Erics and there's 1 skinny.
So we know a little bit about them? Okay.
I don't even know what they are.
Me either. Do we have any questions we might ask, just knowing we're going to hear about the 3 Erics? Cheyenne.
Are we allowed to read the book on Eric's books or not?
You can, but you can't spoil it for the rest of us. But my question was, do you have a question about this chapter before we read it that you will hope gets answered? No questions?
I can see the picture of them.
Here's the picture of our 3 Erics.
2 fat ones.
Okay, I see 2 fat ones and 1 skinny.
So we have observations on how they look. 2 very, very large ones. I wouldn't even say fat because they are just big kids. They look like, and 2 skinny ones. My observation is they look mean. They don't look like friendly Erics. In Mrs. Jewell's class, there were 3 children named Eric. Eric Fry, Eric Bacon, and Eric Ovens. They were known throughout the school for being fat. Eric Fry sat at sat at this end of the room. Eric Bacon sat in the middle of the room. And Eric Ovens sat on the other end of the room. There was a joke around Wayside that if all three Erics were ever in the same end of the room at the same time, the whole school would tip over. How is our school built? Poorly. Wayside, so it may be a little bit wonky and wiggly, but think of Reed's gesturing. It was built straight up, right? So it was meant to be a long hallway, and they stacked all the buildings. The builder messed it up. That's part of Wayside. They just messed up the whole school's building. Yes, Owen?
What does the school look like?
So the way they described the school,
So now it's like a skyscraper?
yes, it's a skyscraper building. It was not supposed to be that way, but the people who built it messed up. The whole idea about Wayside is that everything is weird. Nothing about the school or the people in it are normal. Everything's just very strange to the point you're like, what? So there's 30 stories to this school straight up.
How'd they go outside?
They have to go all down the stairs. They have to go down 30 flights of stairs.
Like,
Mason?
Well, unless you're on the first floor.
Unless you're on the first floor, that's right. We're talking about Mrs. Jewell's class. They're on the 30th floor.
what?
Mason?
Number one, how do you mess that up? Number one, if you're planning to make it flat, you're not just like eating a chunk of the school, putting it there, get a chunk of the school, putting it down. No, you just build it one by one in the shape, then you fill it up with more bricks. How do you mess that up?
I mean, it seems pretty impossible to us, but we know that everything in this story is impossible.
Wouldn't there only be 29?
Do you guys remember the one floor that's missing? What floor is missing?
19.
19.
Yeah, it's what
So
it
there's 30 floors, but 19 is missing. So really, there's only 29.
I know,
Mrs.
but
Barbie's is fake.
Right. There's no Mrs. Zarbies.
then why is there a
It's
Mrs.
going from top 20. It's floating?
It must go from 18
Yeah,
to
they got-
20,
got
like
this
just one at a
flat
time.
floor, and then he picked it up and put it
Okay, let's hear about the Eric. So we got distracted with the school tipping over, right? Which made us ask, well, what does the school look like anyway?
That can be what?
That could be. That could be about our
Or why?
location.
Or why?
Eric Bacon hated jokes like that. That's not surprising. After all, he wasn't even fat. In fact, he was the skinniest kid in Mrs. Jewell's class. But nobody seemed to notice. The other two Erics were fat, so everyone just thought all Erics were fat. But I'm not fat, Eric Bacon insisted. What's your names? Asked Jason. Eric, said Eric Bacon. Then you're fat, said Jason. And pretty soon, skinny little Eric Bacon, the skinniest kid in Miss Jewell's class, had the nickname Fatso. The irony, right? How frustrating. How would you guys feel if you were Eric Bacon and you were just overshadowed all the time by Eric Ovens and Eric Fry?
I'll slap.
Zane, we need to put our mask on and sit up. Yes, Mason?
Are you asking like what would I do?
Yeah, how would you guys feel? Remember, we ask and answer questions to get a deeper meaning from the text.
I would feel bad, go to my parents,
Bad.
say, I hate the school a million times.
Every day, right? Mom, switch schools. Switch me schools every day.
I mean, I'm pretty much do that all the time.
What? Mason?
When I was in Roman,
Oh, at Roadrunner. Well, now you're here, and I hope you like it here.
way better.
Way better. Thanks for that, Mason. Okay, jumping right back in. So, Fatso. Eric Fry really was fat. He was also the best athlete in Mrs. Jewell's class. His body was solid muscle. However, nobody ever noticed. Right. The other two Erics weren't very good at sports. Eric Ovens was clumsy. Eric Fatso Bacon was a good athlete for his size. But because he was so skinny, he didn't have much power. So naturally, everybody just assumed Eric Fry was also clumsy and weak. After all, his name was Eric. Whenever the other kids chose up teams, Eric Fry was one of the last picks. They never noticed his home runs or the fabulous catches he made. Like all great athletes, he made the impossible look easy. Of course, the other kids did not notice the one time that he dropped the ball. Eric Fry was playing right field. Terrence belted a deep fly to the left. Eric Fry raced all the way across the field after the ball and at last second dived at it. He caught it in mid-air on his fingertips, but as he hit the ground, the ball squirted loose. "Well, what do you expect from Butterfingers?" said Stephen. And since that time, Eric Fry had the nickname Butterfingers. Eric Evans was the nicest person in Mrs. Jewell's class. He treated everyone equally and always had kind words to say. But because his name was Eric, everyone thought he was mean. Fatso was mean because everyone called him Fatso. Butterfingers was mean because he always had to play right field. So naturally, everyone just assumed that Eric Evans was also mean. They called him Crabapple. That would be really hard to constantly live in other people's shadows. Zane, second time I'm asking you to sit up. You're closing your eyes, which is why I'm asking you to sit up. We need to be upright, arms and elbows off the desk to resist the temptation. All right, let me find my place. Crabapple, that's right. "Good morning, Allison," said Eric Evans. "How are you?" "Lay off, Crabapple, will ya?" answered Allison. "If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all." Who does that sound like? Maybe that's where I got this saying, you guys. I've said that ever since I read this book when I was your age. All three of the Erics had nicknames. It was better that way. Otherwise, when someone said, "Hey, Eric," no one knew who he was talking to. One time, all the Erics would answer, and the next time, none of them would answer. But when someone said, "Hey, Crabapple," then Eric Evans knew they were talking to him. And if someone said, "Hey, Butterfingers," Eric Fry knew they meant him. And when someone said, "Hey, Fatso," Eric Bacon knew that he was being called on. Is any of these names better than the others? Mason?
No, they're all breakfast. They're all food related.
They're all food related.
I like Butterfingers though.
That's interesting. I didn't even take that away from it. So they're all food related. And they're all kind of negative, right? I'd be offended if somebody called me Crabapple.
Bacon, oven, and fry, and then
Right.
Butterfinger, Crabapple, and what's the other one?
All the Erics have to do with food, right?
There's a place called Fatso's Pizza.
I know.
The end for chapter 22, the three Erics. So, on your lined paper, we should all have it in front of us. We have a couple tasks to complete. The quicker we get done with this, the quicker you'll move on to your Unit 4 Week 3 vocab card. So, you're writing one short gist on one of the two paragraphs, or chapters. We read about Ron, and we read about the three Erics. Remember, with a summary, we only want the main ideas. Do not overshare, okay? So we're telling a gist, a brief summary, and one statement about what has happened. I would like to challenge you to also ask one question that has not been addressed in the text. So maybe you're left with a curious thought about what the Erics' home lives were like, or what it would be like if the Erics went to different schools and found their own identity. So you'll ask one follow-up question and write a short, brief, very brief, 1-2 sentence summary on the chapter of your choosing. Any questions? Nope. All right, Jackson, you just joined us. I'm going to need you to get out a lined piece of paper. Keegan, lined piece of paper as well to write a summary. I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to do that. I'm going to flip our 5-minute timer because I really want to hear some of your questions. I'll read your summaries later. So I'm flipping our 5-minute timer, and we're all writing a 2-sentence summary. Reed and Russell.
Alright, I'm taking it out, so.
Okay. Wonderful job getting started right away, everyone. The three Erics are really fresh in our mind. 2 sentences. That's all I'm asking. These chapters are very short. So tell me what happened in the three Erics in 2 sentences.
Even after all of that, I don't remember how to summarize.
So Zane, we would have to put effort into
I know
it.
you have to do what, where, when, and why, but like, I
don't know what's important in those.
How do you put all of that in two different things?
So we're looking at the gist. I'm not focused on, I don't want you guys to describe the building of Wayside School to me. I don't want you to mention every single character. So you're focused specifically on that chapter. The three Erics, they don't have a specific location because sometimes they're in the classroom, sometimes they're in the playground. That piece would not be relevant. It is not a key detail to help us understand what happened. We would want to identify who they are, maybe how they're different, but yet people see them as all the same. So you guys could fill in a lot of detail in that piece of information I just gave you and have a really solid, short summary.
Or you could write about Ron.
Or you can write about Ron and his small feet who just likes to play kickball. Doesn't matter how good he is or how bad he is, he just wants to play. JT, what question did you come up with to ask? I know you finished.
I wonder how their life is.
You wonder how their life is at home. I hope they have some individuality at home, right? Because there's not two other Erics in their household, we hope.
Never know, you could be brothers.
Okay.
We don't know, right? That's a good question, though. It can help you better understand these three characters. That's our goal with our questioning of a text. I want to know more. Russell.
I finished.
Can you tell me what question you have about what we just read? Is there a specific question you came up with to better understand?
The question?
Yeah.
I didn't.
So I want you to ask one question that you still have, either about the three Erics or Ron, and just write at the bottom of your summary. So we're practicing our summarizing skills and our questioning of the text. Read. You're done too? Nice. Do you want to share your question?
My question was about Ron.
Ron, what did you want to know more about Ron? What's your question specifically?
How come he can't kick a ball very far, even though he has a lot of strength?
He has a lot of strength, but yet he can't kick this ball. And he practices a lot by the sounds. That's a great question. Why is he not getting better? Cheyenne, I know you have a question.
Yes. My question is, why does no one notice in the air ovens?
Why does nobody notice the things Eric Ovens does? Thanks for being specific about one of our three Erics. That's a good one. Anyone else want to share a question? Russell, and then I'll come to Ethan.
Why did Ron have small feet?
Why did he have small feet? Was he small his whole body? Maybe he was just born with small feet, but he's super tall? That's a good question. Ethan.
Why does he have small feet and loves kickball?
Why does he love kickball so much, and why are his feet small? Right, because it makes sense. Miss Mara was super short and her feet are super small, but would it make sense if I was super tall and my feet were super tiny? No. But maybe that's Ron. Nothing makes sense in Wayside School.
That's what I was about to say.
Right. So that was a lot of really great questions. I just want to double check. Do we have anyone else who wants to share a question before we move on to the next part of our ELA block?
I just put mine down.
What's your question?
Let's talk about writing a summary, not a question.
There are two parts. I know that instruction was clear because we have a lot of students who are ready to ask their questions. So go ahead and take this time now to come up with one, Zane, okay? Jackson, did you get your summary done?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so I'm going to switch our brains over. We're done with our summarizing and our asking and answering questions.